The wire transfer confirmation flashed across Daxon's phone at 11:47 p.m. $390 million. Successfully moved to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. He smiled, kissed Brielle's bare shoulder, and whispered, "We're free, baby. We're finally free." What Daxon didn't know, what he couldn't have possibly known, was that the woman whose number he'd blocked 6 hours earlier, the woman he'd just stolen from, the woman he thought was just another corporate executive with a trust fund, was actually the silent chairwoman of the entire banking empire he'd just tried to rob. And in exactly 14 hours, Brielle would be sobbing on a street corner in Manhattan, holding a cardboard sign. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where this all started. Before we dive into this wild story, do me a favor. Hit that like button if you've ever trusted the wrong person, and subscribe because what happens next is absolutely insane. You won't believe how this ends. You're probably wondering, how does someone steal $390 million and end up with nothing? How does a mistress go from designer bags to begging on the streets in less than a day? And most importantly, who was this woman they messed with? Stick around. You're about to find out. Greenwich, Connecticut. The kind of place where the lawns are maintained by landscaping crews, not homeowners. Where summer home means a 12-bedroom estate, and everyone's good car costs more than most people's houses. Daxon Hartwell lived in a colonial mansion worth $8 million. 42 years old, silver fox hair, custom suits, and the kind of confidence that comes from never being told no your entire life. He ran a successful wealth management firm, drove a Bentley Continental GT, and had a wine cellar worth more than some people's retirement funds. But here's the thing about Daxon. He always wanted more. For 7 years, he'd been with Lennox. Lennox Ashford. 38. Quiet power in designer heels. The kind of beautiful that doesn't need Instagram filters. Sharp cheekbones, natural auburn hair, and eyes that seem to see right through people's nonsense. She traveled constantly for work, always taking calls in different time zones, always in meetings that Daxon never quite understood. Banking stuff, she'd say when he asked. Regulatory compliance. Board meetings. Boring corporate things. He never pushed. Why would he? She made good money, or so he thought. They had a joint investment portfolio worth about $400 million, built over years of combined assets, as she'd explained it. Daxon assumed half was his money, half was hers. He had no idea that every single dollar came from her. None of it was his. Not 1 cent. But Daxon's ego wouldn't let him see that. In his mind, he was the successful one. He was the provider. Lennox was just there. Successful, sure, but nothing special. Nothing that required his constant attention anymore. Which is exactly how Brielle Cosette slipped into the picture. 26. Blonde. Worked in client relations at some finance firm in Manhattan. They met at a rooftop bar in Soho on a Tuesday night when Lennox was in Singapore for a board meeting. "You look like you need better company," Brielle had said, sliding onto the bar stool next to him. 3 martinis later, Daxon was hooked. She laughed at his jokes, touched his arm, made him feel young again, interesting again, desired again. Everything Lennox had stopped doing. Or maybe everything Daxon had stopped noticing. Within 2 months, they were meeting twice a week at the Baccarat Hotel. Within 4 months, Daxon was fantasizing about leaving Lennox entirely. Within 6 months, he'd made up his mind. "I'm done," he told Brielle one night in November, tangled in Egyptian cotton sheets. "I'm leaving her. We can be together for real. But what about money? Brielle asked, tracing a finger down his chest. She'll take half of everything in a divorce. Daxon grinned. Not if I move it first. Here's where Daxon made his first massive mistake. He had access to the joint portfolio. Lennox had given him full authorization years ago. Back when she trusted him. Back when she believed they were building a life together. The account was managed through a private wealth division of a massive international bank. One of those names you see on skyscrapers in every major city. Daxon didn't know, couldn't have known, that Lennox wasn't just a client of that bank. She owned it. Not the branch. Not the division. The entire institution. All $2.1 trillion of it. But we'll get to that. On December 15th, Daxon made his move. He contacted the wealth management team, people he'd worked with for years, and requested a full liquidation and wire transfer of $390 million to an offshore account he'd set up in Brielle's name, with her as a business partner to avoid suspicion. The team processed it immediately. Why wouldn't they? He had full authorization. Everything looked legitimate. At 11:47 p.m., the transfer completed. At 11:52 p.m., Daxon blocked Lennox's number. At 11:58 p.m., he texted Brielle, "It's done. Pack your bags. We leave for Turks and Caicos tomorrow." At 12:03 a.m., he fell asleep, dreaming of his new life. At 12:07 a.m., an encrypted alert hit Lennox's phone in London, where she was attending a private reception with 3 heads of state and the managing director of the IMF. She excused herself, stepped into a quiet corridor, and read the notification. Her face didn't change. Not even a flicker. She made one phone call. It lasted 90 seconds. Then she returned to the reception, shook hands, smiled politely, and finished her champagne. Daxon woke up at 7 a.m. to 17 missed calls from unknown numbers. Then his phone rang again. "Mr. Hartwell?" A clipped, professional voice. "This is Sinclair Bennington from the bank's Special Investigations Unit. We need to speak with you immediately regarding account number." "I don't know what you're talking about," Daxon said, heart suddenly pounding. "Sir, we have flagged a wire transfer of $390 million made from your joint account last night. The transaction is currently under review for possible fraud, money laundering, and..." Daxon hung up. He called Brielle. Straight to voicemail. He tried the offshore account login. Access denied. He tried the wealth management team. "I'm sorry, Mr. Hartwell, but we've been instructed not to speak with you. Please direct all inquiries to our legal department." Panic set in. He threw on clothes, grabbed his keys, and drove to Brielle's apartment in Manhattan, a place he'd been paying rent on for the last 4 months. The doorman stopped him in the lobby. "I'm sorry, sir. Miss Cosette is no longer a resident here." "What?" "I was just here 3 days ago. She was evicted this morning. Building management." "Sir, I don't have details." Daxon's hands were shaking now. He tried calling her again. Nothing. Then his own phone buzzed. An email. From Lennox's attorney. Subject: Notice of legal action. He didn't even finish reading it before another email came through. Then another. Then 12 more. Fraud investigation. Asset freeze. Criminal referral to federal prosecutors. Civil suit for theft. Breach of fiduciary duty. Conspiracy to commit wire fraud. And every single one referenced the same thing. Unauthorized transfer of funds belonging solely to Lennox Ashford. Daxon's blood went cold. Solely? He opened his banking app with trembling fingers. The joint account, the one he thought was half his, now showed a balance of $0. Beneath it, a note. Account ownership has been corrected. All assets belong to Chairwoman Ashford. Unauthorized access has been reported. Chairwoman? He Googled Lennox's full name for the first time in 7 years. And that's when Daxon's world completely shattered. Lennox Ashford. Chairwoman and majority stakeholder of Ashford Global Financial Group, the third largest banking and investment institution in the world. $2.1 trillion in assets under management. Operations in 73 countries. Clients included sovereign wealth funds, central banks, and 17 of the Fortune 50. Her face stared back at him from Forbes, Bloomberg, Financial Times. The most powerful woman in finance you've never heard of, one headline read. Daxon's knees gave out. He sat down hard on the sidewalk outside Brielle's old building, staring at his phone in disbelief. The woman he'd just stolen from, the woman he'd blocked, betrayed, and abandoned, wasn't just rich. She was untouchable. And now, she was coming for him. But that was nothing compared to what she was about to do to Brielle. Brielle woke up at 9 a.m. in the Baccarat Hotel, the same suite where she and Daxon had celebrated the night before. She stretched, smiled, and reached for her phone to check the offshore account balance. Access denied. She frowned. Tried again. Account suspended pending investigation. Her stomach dropped. She tried calling Daxon. Straight to voicemail. She tried texting. Nothing. Then she tried logging into her own bank account, the one where her salary from work was deposited. Account frozen by order of Ashford Global Financial Group, Fraud Investigation Division. The phone slipped from her hands. Ashford Global? That was... Wait. That was the parent company of the bank where she worked. The massive institution that owned her division, her boss's division, everything. But why would they? Her phone buzzed. An email from HR. Subject: Immediate termination and legal notice. Dear Miss Cosette, effective immediately, your employment has been terminated for gross misconduct, conspiracy to commit fraud, and violation of company ethics policies. You are required to surrender all company property and are permanently banned from all Ashford Global facilities worldwide. Additionally, you are hereby notified of pending civil and criminal investigations related to your involvement in the unauthorized transfer of $390 million from accounts under Ashford Global Management. You will be hearing from our legal team. Security has been notified. Do not attempt to enter any company buildings. Brielle's vision blurred. No. This wasn't happening. She threw on clothes and ran downstairs to the lobby, credit card in hand to pay for the room. Declined. She tried another card. Declined. Another. Declined. The front desk manager looked at her with cold professionalism. Miss Cosette, we've been instructed to inform you that all your cards have been frozen due to suspected fraudulent activity. You'll need to settle your bill immediately or we'll be forced to contact authorities. I don't have cash, Then I'm afraid we'll need to hold your belongings until payment is received. Brielle stumbled out onto the street, her designer purse clutched to her chest, her phone buzzing non-stop with alerts. Rent payment. Declined. Car payment. Declined. Gym membership. Declined. Netflix. Declined. Every automatic payment she had was bouncing. Every account. Frozen. Every credit line. Suspended. She tried calling her bank. After 20 minutes on hold, a representative finally answered. Miss Cosette, your accounts have been flagged by Ashford Global Financial Group as part of an ongoing fraud investigation. All assets are frozen pending resolution. I can't provide further details. But I need money. I need to eat. Click. They hung up. Brielle sank onto a bench in Madison Square Park, shaking. Her phone buzzed again. A text from her landlord. Eviction notice filed. You have 24 hours. Another text, from her car loan company. Vehicle repossession scheduled. Another from her own mother. Brielle, what the hell is going on? Someone from a law firm called asking about you. She tried to call Daxon one more time. Still nothing. And that's when she finally understood. He wasn't coming to save her. She was completely, utterly alone. And whoever this Lennox person was, whoever Daxon had stolen from, she wasn't just rich. She was systematically destroying Brielle's entire life. Meanwhile, across town, Daxon was sitting in a lawyer's office, pale and sweating. Let me make sure I understand this correctly, the attorney said, reviewing documents. You transferred $390 million from an account you believed was jointly owned. But it was actually entirely owned by Lennox Ashford, who gave you authorized access as a courtesy? I thought it was ours. We built it together, she said. Mr. Hartwell, did you read any of the account documentation? Daxon went silent. Because if you had, you would have seen that you were listed as an authorized user, not an owner. Every dollar in that account was legally hers. Which means you didn't just commit theft. You committed wire fraud against one of the most powerful financial institutions on the planet. But I didn't know. I swear The lawyer held up a hand. It gets worse. Miss Ashford's legal team has filed 17 separate lawsuits against you. Civil suits for theft, breach of fiduciary duty, fraud. They've also referred your case to the FBI for criminal investigation. Daxon felt like he was going to vomit. Can't we settle? I'll give the money back, Mr. Hartwell, you don't have the money. It's been frozen and seized. And even if you did, Lennox Ashford doesn't need your money. She has $2 trillion. What she wants is justice. The lawyer leaned forward. And between you and me? She's going to get it. By day 3, Brielle was homeless. Actually homeless. Her apartment was cleared out. Her car was gone. Her credit cards were useless plastic. She had $43 in cash. Money she'd had in her wallet from before everything collapsed, and the clothes on her back. She tried staying with friends, but word had spread fast. Everyone knew. Everyone had seen the news articles. Finance employee involved in $390 million fraud scheme. Mistress of wealth manager caught in massive theft from banking heiress. Her face was everywhere. Her name was ruined. No one would help her. On day 5, she was standing outside a Whole Foods in Tribeca, holding a piece of cardboard she'd found in an alley. Please help. Lost everything. Anything helps. God bless. People walked past without looking. Some took photos. One woman stopped, stared at her and said, Wait, aren't you that girl who tried to steal from Lennox Ashford? Brielle said nothing. The woman laughed. Good luck with that. And walked away. Daxon's fall was slower, but just as brutal. His wealth management firm was under investigation. Clients pulled their money. His business partners distanced themselves. His Bentley was repossessed. His house went into foreclosure. Every asset he thought he had was either frozen, seized, or revealed to have never actually been his in the first place. He'd been living off Lennox's money for years without realizing it. The fancy dinners. The tailored suits. The golf club memberships. All of it. Her money. He was never the successful one. He was just the guy she'd loved enough to take care of. And he'd repaid her by stealing and cheating. By week 2, Daxon was sleeping in his office, dodging process servers, and drinking cheap whiskey straight from the bottle. His lawyer stopped returning his calls. His friends stopped answering. Even his own brother told him, "You messed with the wrong person, Dax. I can't be associated with this." He was alone. Completely, utterly alone. Just like Brielle. 3 weeks after the wire transfer, Lennox returned to Connecticut. She walked into the mansion she and Daxon had shared, now legally hers again, since it had always been in her name, and found it empty except for a few pieces of furniture. She didn't feel sadness. She didn't feel anger. She felt nothing. She'd loved him once. Truly. She'd built a life with him, trusted him, given him access to everything. And he'd thrown it away for a 26-year-old blonde and a pile of money that was never even his. Her assistant, Marlowe, appeared in the doorway. The federal prosecutors accepted the case. Both of them are facing charges. The mistress is cooperating, but it won't help her much. Lennox nodded. And Daxon? Broke. Facing 20 years minimum if convicted. His legal team abandoned him. Good. Marlowe hesitated. There's something else. The mistress, Brielle Cosette, she's been spotted panhandling in Manhattan. Some people are posting about it online. They're calling it karma. Lennox said nothing for a long moment. Then she turned to Marlowe. Make sure she stays on the street. No shelters. No charity will help her. Blacklist her from every assistance program in the state. Marlowe's eyes widened. Ma'am, that's... She helped him steal from me. She knew exactly what she was doing. She wanted my life. Lennox's voice was ice. Now she has nothing. And I want her to stay that way. Marlowe nodded and left. Lennox stood alone in the empty house, staring out at the manicured lawn. She'd built an empire. She'd controlled trillions. She'd influenced governments. And the one person she'd let close enough to hurt her had done exactly that. Never again. Daxon Hartwell was sentenced to 18 years in federal prison for wire fraud, theft, and money laundering. Brielle Cosette took a plea deal. 5 years probation, restitution she'd never be able to pay, and a permanent mark on her record that made her unemployable in any professional field. Last anyone saw, she was working part-time at a gas station in Newark, living in a friend's basement, and still dodging creditors. Lennox Ashford never spoke publicly about the incident. She never had to. The story spread on its own, whispered in boardrooms, shared in finance circles, told as a cautionary tale at business schools. Never cross Lennox Ashford. Never underestimate a powerful woman. And never ever steal from someone who controls the global financial system. Because she won't just take her money back. She'll take everything. 1 year later, Lennox was in her corner office on the 58th floor of the Ashford Global Tower in Manhattan, reviewing acquisition proposals. Her assistant knocked softly. "Ma'am, there's someone here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment, but she says it's important." Lennox didn't look up. "Who?" "Brielle Cosette." Lennox's pen stopped moving. She set it down slowly. "Send her in." A moment later, Brielle walked through the door, thin, tired, wearing a thrift store coat and shoes that had seen better days. She looked like a ghost of the girl who used to laugh in hotel suites and steal other women's men. "Miss Ashford, her voice cracked. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry. For everything. I know it doesn't mean anything, but I needed to say it." Lennox studied her for a long moment. Then she stood, walked around the desk, and looked Brielle directly in the eyes. "You're right," Lennox said quietly. "It doesn't mean anything." Brielle's face crumpled. "But," Lennox continued, "I'm going to give you a piece of advice. Free of charge." Brielle looked up, desperate. "Never mistake kindness for weakness. Never assume you're smarter than the people around you. And never, ever betray someone who trusted you. Lennox's voice was calm, but her eyes were steel. Because the universe has a way of teaching those lessons. And I promise you. Brielle nodded, tears streaming down her face, and left without another word. Lennox returned to her desk and picked up her pen. She had empires to run. And no time for ghosts. So there you have it. The $390 million mistake. A man who thought he could steal from his partner. A mistress who thought she could have it all. And a woman who reminded them both that power isn't loud. It's absolute. If this story taught you anything, drop a comment below. Have you ever trusted the wrong person? Have you ever underestimated someone? Let me know. And if you made it this far, thank you. Hit that like button, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe because I've got more stories that'll blow your mind. Remember, never underestimate the quiet ones. They're usually the ones running everything. See you in the next one. Yendi.